Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Alison and Paige Talk Canada Reads. We're on our fourth book this time, and the book is It's Different This Time by Josh Richard. I have a physical copy of it.
I listened to the audiobook.
Alison did the audiobook. Was that on Spotify or Libby or
Spotify.
Spotify? Nice. So we're super excited to talk about this today. It's a romance book, which is, a rare find in Canada Reads. So we're excited to talk about it. It's also totally different than the first three books that we read, like very different.
Mhm.
So that keeps it fresh and exciting. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the author and the champion. So the author is Josh Richard. She was born in Toronto, and then now lives in LA. Has lived in LA for a while. She's been on and like been part of a lot of really big, like a producer on a lot of big projects and shows.
Hmm.
She's worked for Disney Plus, I think. She's worked on the Ellen DeGeneres show. She's worked on the Reese Witherspoon Book Club, which is a huge organization. She's like a producer. So she produces, segments and things like that, and has met a lot of famous people. She did a podcast episode with the champion of this book. So they were in conversation for like half an hour, 45 minutes. So I listened to that. So I learned a lot about,
Oh, interesting.
her from that. So she's really well connected. She's interviewed people like Jennifer Aniston, and she worked with Reese Witherspoon and many other celebrities. That's kind of cool. And yeah, she hails from Toronto. And this is her first book. It's her debut novel. Actually, something really interesting to talk about in the podcast, and we can kind of talk about this later a bit as well, is she actually she grew up writing fan fiction. So
Yeah,
she
I
wrote a lot of
love
fan
fan fiction growing
fiction
up. Yeah.
about like there'd be shows and movies that she liked, and she would do fan fiction of that. So
True
her
story.
two favorite like pieces of content are The Sound of Music, which you've seen. It's a classic. Julie
Yeah.
Andrews, yeah, musical. And she loves musicals, which is in this book as well. And she also loves Three's Company.
Yeah.
So that's also like roommates. It's about like roommates. And so
Yeah.
she likes the idea of roommates. Anyway, so she grew up writing a lot of fan fiction. And I found it super interesting that she wrote this book basically as like fan fiction in a way. Like she just wrote it for herself. Like her original goal was just to write it and have her friends read it, her husband read it. And then she said her husband read it and really liked it and encouraged her to like find a publisher. So she didn't have a
Mm.
publisher or anything. Then she like talked around and finally got one and then published it. So it's interesting that she wrote it really like more for herself in a way,
Yeah.
not with the goal of like selling it.
Mhm.
So I thought that was super interesting too. And we can maybe talk a little later about like debut novels and expectations we have of authors and writers.
And
Anyways,
fan
well,
fiction, like, people think, like, fan fiction is just amateur hour, and obviously some of it is people just write fan fiction for themselves,
mhm,
but some people who write fan fiction are very talented and very good
definitely.
writers, and so the connection and the leap from writing fan fiction to being writing a book or being an author is not as big of a gap as people may think.
Yeah, totally, totally. So yeah, I think fan fiction gets a bad rap, but it probably shouldn't get quite a bad rap
Just
as
as,
well.
like, a queer person growing up, I like watching all these shows and movies or books that were only heterosexual couples. Lots of queer fan
Mm,
fiction authors would write in queer storylines so that you could experience that show from, like, a queer perspective, so that was really, like, a wonderful thing for me, so I have a very positive association with it, but it definitely gets a bad rap, and we can talk
yeah.
about this, like, fan fiction, romance, like, kinda has this kind of stereotype associated with it, but
I
yeah.
think fan fiction, like, they give the people what the people want. Like, it's like anyways, we'll move on,
Give the people what they
at this
want.
moment. So the champion, her name is Morgan Book, which
I
is
think this
like
is ridiculous.
I'm sure people have met, like, every day of her life, people probably talk about that. But she loves books, loves reading. She has a podcast.
Do you think she liked
So
books? She'd like books as much if her last name wasn't Book.
I don't think so. Like,
Do
I
you think
just
it's like
don't
a
think so.
self-fulfilling prophecy almost?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. So
Mm,
she's a big romance girly. So it makes sense she picked this book. A lot of the people on her podcast are romance writers. She popped up on my TikTok feed before, you know, like, she wasn't even a champion, so I was vaguely familiar with her before we heard about the champions. So it doesn't surprise me she would pick a romance book. I think if we'd known ahead of time that she was a champion, we probably could have guessed she would have picked this book. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, we'll just dive into the book a bit more now.
Do you consider yourself a romance girly? Just to
I
set the
think
context for our
like
viewers.
not like I used to read a lot more romance than I do now.
Okay.
And I've just sort of evolved towards other genres, but I
Evolved.
still enjoy I feel like I read, like, a couple romance books a year, so I
Mhm.
still do read them. I
Yeah.
probably read, like, 2 a year,
Mhm.
so I still like them, maybe 3. So, I definitely still like them, I think maybe in phases, maybe I'll go back to that at some point, but, yeah, I definitely have a history of reading a lot of romance books, so yeah, I definitely like them. And you're like the opposite, I think. You just aren't interested in reading romance, like, you're not a hater, but,
No, I'm
like,
not a hater. I
you
think
just
that
find you're just not interested.
yeah, I mean, I've only read 2 romance books. This was the second one I've ever read. The first one was, a lesbian romance. This one is my first, heterosexual romance, and I think or as we continue to talk about this book, we'll see that I find the slow burn, and then not every book is a slow burn, to be so frustrating. Maybe it's just this kind of romance novel that isn't for me, but I feel
Mm,
like I need other plot points. Like, I don't mind romance being an element of a story,
mm.
but I think sometimes I struggle when it's a focus of the
Yeah.
story, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
we
No, I can
can
see that.
chat about it.
Yeah. So do you wanna give a little, like, preface of what this book is about before we
Yeah.
dive into spoilers?
Yeah, so, it's a romance, as Paige said, and it's about an actor named June Wood, who is living in LA, and working on a TV show. And then she gets this mysterious email from like a lawyer or something in New
Yeah, I
York
think it's a lawyer. Yeah.
saying that she needs to come to New York to address some business. And she used to live in New York many moons ago. And so she goes back to New York, and it turns out that the house that she and her former roommate, Adam Harper, live in has been passed down to them from their landlord. And now they own this house together, and they have to figure out what that means. And it kind of bounces between the current and the past. And yeah, kind of what blossoms between them and them trying to kind of find a way. I'm going to stop there. Wait. Yeah. But yeah, I'll just stop there and I'll just cut myself off.
Okay.
Because I don't want to give any spoilers. So yeah, I kind of bounce
No.
between the past and the present.
I don't think
And the
it's a
thing is, they
spoiler to
haven't spoken in
say
5 years or something, Adam and June.
yeah,
So
I
that,
don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's a second chance romance. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's on the like, it's different. This time it even says here, like, second chance
Oh, okay.
romance. So, I don't think that's a spoiler to say. And maybe, some of our listeners that might not know about, like, tropes
I was just going
and,
to
like
say there's a couple that apply to this
oh,
book, but
so
please get
go
into
ahead.
it. Yeah. No, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I think maybe we should, like, talk about what a trope is in
Sure.
literature, and I find that there's a lot of tropes in romance. I guess there's tropes in other genres, but a trope is like well, how would you, like, define trope? It's like a pattern or like, let me
Like
just look
a
up.
setting, like a setting or a sequence of events that is a
Mm,
common occurrence in certain genres, like a romance book. Like you mentioned, maybe it's best to use examples. So like you were saying, this is a second chance romance. So basically, didn't work out the first time, maybe it'll work out this time, the second
yeah,
time, or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
That happens in multiple romance books. Like that may be something that you notice happens in a lot of romance books.
Mhm,
Same with like forced proximity, which is another one.
mhm.
In this case, this is a forced proximity trope where they're living together. They have to because they have to figure out what to do with this house.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
kind of that
yeah,
romance. And then
yeah.
another one was best friends to lovers is
Mhm,
another trope. Like that's what
mhm,
also happens in this
mhm.
novel.
Yeah,
So it's just as
yeah.
consistent. Like it happens across genres, as you said, but I feel like in romance, they're almost talked about more, maybe.
Yeah, I think I talked to it more. And people who are romance girlies and romance, gays and theys, we all have, like, tropes we like more than others and maybe
Yeah.
want to pick up a book because it has that trope.
Yeah.
And like a common one would be like um someone who's grumpy and someone who's like sunshine. That would be another one. Or like, there's so
Enemies to
many, so
lovers,
many of
best friends,
them.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many. So it does exist. And I think tropes are in TV shows too,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
like dramas and like comedies.
I just hit myself on the table.
Earthquake.
Yeah,
So, that's what a trope is. When we talk about tropes, that's what we mean.
yeah.
So maybe from now we'll talk about spoilers, or like we'll just say from now on there's spoilers. You can definitely still read the book, like if you have the spoilers, but we'll just say from here on there's spoilers. So maybe do you want to talk a little bit more about kind of what happens in the book, just briefly?
Yeah, I can do that. So yeah, so June and Adam end up living together at 74 Perry Street, which is a
Hmm.
brownstone in New York, and they haven't talked in 5 years. So Adam Harper, owns a Michelin star restaurant. He's a chef, and then June is in the process of auditioning for her dream musical, Les Miserables, and so it kind of goes through bounces between the present and the past. So the present is like reconnecting and trying to navigate this thing that happened way back when
And we don't
that
know.
we don't
They don't
know what
only
it
know.
is.
We know
Yeah,
that. We don't know exactly what happened. We know we will find out, but we
yeah.
just don't know
And
how
this
it went.
book is only from June's perspective. I
Yeah.
should mention that too.
Yeah.
In the past, they kind of go from, when they first started being roommates, how that happened, and then through different life moments. So June, getting to be in Rent on Broadway, and June developing a relationship with Adam's family and like becoming really close to his mom who passed away from
Mhm.
cancer. So then you kind of eventually find out what the falling out was about. And yeah, it kind of goes back and forth. And it is like, I would call it a happy ending in the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They end up
Yeah.
together, but it's a series of miscommunications along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. There are definitely times where you just kind of wish you could take the main character, June, and just like take her and be like,
Ah.
can you just communicate, please? And also go to therapy. Like,
Yeah,
therapy is
true.
helpful. So, like, please, from June's perspective, so we hear inside her head and her rationalization of her actions. So, yeah, and it's a happy ending. That's the thing about romances, is there's always a happy ending.
Oh, yeah?
That's like a key part of romances. There's
Okay.
always a happy ending. People always end up together.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I feel like if they didn't end up together, you'd be like, "Why did I waste my time reading this book?"
Yeah. Like, bad things can happen for sure, but they always end up together, which I think is why a lot of people like romances and why they're comforting, is
Yeah.
because at the end they're gonna be together. So it's just a matter of getting there. And
I
I
wish I
think
knew
it
that. I feel like I had a thought, like I had a gut feeling that they would end up together, but
yeah.
that's good
Well,
to
yeah, I'm
know.
glad you didn't know that. Like,
Maybe, yeah.
So I think in this like world we live in, where there's a lot like on the news and politics and everything, like if you can read a book that is like comforting to you, I think that can be really valuable to like escape for a bit.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's like pro romance in a way.
I was gonna ask what your general thoughts were on the book.
General
Should
thoughts.
we go there
Yeah,
first, or
I
do you
general
wanna
thoughts,
roll
like,
in?
it was a solid, like, romance book. It was solid.
Okay.
It's not my absolute favorite book ever. It's not my favorite romance book ever, but it's very solid, and I feel like it hits kind of right where I expect romance books to hit for me, 'cause it's even romance books that I really like, I read one in the fall that I really liked, but it was, like, 4 stars for me, I think, like, it's just I'm just not as interested in romance as I used to be.
4
So I
stars
think
is really good.
yeah, 4 stars is still good,
Yeah.
but it's not like it would be top 10 kind of book for me. So I think, I don't think any romance could be higher than that. Like maybe, but I
Mhm.
don't think so. So for me, it would be like 3.5 kind of star
Which
kind
we
of
did ended up
thing.
feeling the same about it, I think.
Yeah, which is still good. Like
Yeah.
it was interesting. I enjoyed reading it. Yeah, at this point, I'm more interested in like plot twists and turns and
You're free
maybe other
McFadden.
things like that, and maybe there were some, like, little plot twists in this, but that's not really the point of the book, is it? What do you think? So you kind of ended up at the same rating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the end was good, like, it redeemed itself for me a bit. I felt it was a bit long. Um,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
audiobook, the voices were kinda a little bit cringy at points, but I did appreciate the fantasy element of it almost. They're living in a life that I will never be a Michelin star chef, I will never be a
Mhm.
Broadway star. So I appreciated
Yeah.
that
It was
departure
cool.
from
Yeah.
reality, like you said.
Yeah.
June I did find insufferable
Yeah,
at times,
at times. Yeah.
but it also made me think that you don't have to have, like, a character that you really like in order for it to be a good book.
No. Yeah.
Um, and, like, there were redeemable qualities, but yeah, girl like, I think I told you this, I was walking and listening to the book, and at one point I was like, "Girl." I think it was
Girl.
when, towards the end when she went to Adam's apartment to get the pasta maker, and she found the picture of them,
Mhm.
found out
It
that
was
Adam
her
was engaged.
fiance.
But, like, a couple months ago, you told him that you don't wanna not a couple months
Yeah,
ago. You told me
exactly,
you don't wanna
exactly.
hear about it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then
Girl.
she confronts him and he's like, "But you said I don't wanna hear about it." Like, yeah, and
I'm
not
sure it
much
was
time had passed in
confidential.
the yeah, like, I'm sure he would have still said something eventually, obviously he would have. He seems pretty, like, honest and down to earth, so I think he would have. But yeah, he was definitely in the right in that situation.
And it's interesting, that we only get June's perspective. So in my mind, Adam seemed pretty perfect, but we're
Yes.
viewing him
Yeah,
through June's lens, right? And
yeah,
she has this based on her family history, of course, she was abandoned by both parents. She has
yeah.
a lot of insecurities, and so she's gonna maybe have this skewed view of what Adam's actually like. But I thought it was impressive for a debut novel.
Do you
And yeah,
think, like
I need to take myself out of my, like, 33-year-old self and understand I'm viewing, like, 20-plus-year-olds,
yeah.
that sort of thing, so
Yeah, less life experience. Do you think you would have wanted to hear Adam's perspective at all?
I think
Like
so.
a chapter more or multiple chapters from his point of view? Because sometimes some books, I don't know if you've read books like this where they have like the last chapters from a different character's perspective.
Yeah.
So I actually was
The Cure
wondering
for
if that was gonna
Drowning. No, was that The Cure for Drowning? No. Yes, The Child.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So like I like when that happens sometimes. I thought maybe that would happen with this. I was thinking about that, but it didn't. So yeah, you feel like you would want maybe a chapter from him?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't mind it just being from June's perspective, but it would have been
Mhm.
okay to have a bit of a break from June's brain and kinda
Yeah,
understand the fuller picture.
yeah,
So sorry.
girl. Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't at the end of the book, I wasn't like, "Oh, I wish I'd heard from a different perspective." I didn't
no.
actually really clue in that was only one perspective until I
Mhm,
started reading some of the reviews and was like, "Oh, yeah," like,
mm.
I don't know. I'm kinda neutral on the suggestion of it. What do you think?
Yep, yeah, I get you, I agree. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So Canada Reads.
Kenna reads.
This is only the second romance book that's ever been on the shortlist of Canada Reads, so that's pretty cool in and of itself. 2 years ago, there was a book on the shortlist, and it was a book that I already read, but unfortunately, like, didn't really like.
Mm.
So that was kinda sad, and it was the first book voted off of Canada Reads that year, and I
What
just,
kind of
like
romance was it? Like, trope-wise?
it was also, like, a second chance romance, I
Okay.
think. But, like, it was just yeah, it was not good. That author has better books, like, it's just all overall could have been better,
Yeah.
but I'm so glad to see it included for sure. I just had low expectations. This one's definitely better, and so I'm happy to see it. But yeah, is this a book every Canadian should read? It's it's really
So, yeah,
hard
I
to
had a
say,
couple
like
thoughts about this, I guess.
yeah.
So when I was reading this, I realized that not every book you read needs to have this, like, deep cultural impact or have this, like, make you, like, question your life.
Learn
Yeah,
something.
exactly. And it doesn't mean it's not a good book, and it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
this didn't impact someone, like, maybe this was
Mm.
it depends on who's reading it. So this book could make an impact on some people, so I don't wanna necessarily qualify it for that reason, but I do think it's not Canadian enough, especially in this day and age. Like, there's no Canadian element to it. It's all,
Mm.
like, New York, LA, like, it's too American, I think, in this case, to be a book that every Canadian should read. I think if it was set in Canada, maybe a different story, but that was just my initial thought.
Yeah, I was surprised that none of it was set in Canada. For those who,
Except she was
like,
born in
haven't read it.
Toronto. That's it.
So she was born in Toronto, that was mentioned literally twice,
Yeah.
and so it's bicoastal, it's like New York and LA is the setting. So, I thought that, and then I was thinking, like, does it overtly have to be set in Canada and Canada Reads? So I know Faux wasn't our favorite, but that was, like, not it was never said, like, where it was set.
Yeah.
And even so and, the other books were set in Canada, had Canadian context. I am hesitant to, like, deduct points just because it wasn't set in Canada. I know there's, like, a lot of you know, stuff going on with the US and a lot of issues there, but I don't necessarily wanna, like, deduct, like, points from it just because it was not set in Canada. But I kind of understand and why you say that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a deal breaker or not, but it just made me pause
Yeah,
when answering
yeah,
the question.
yeah,
Is this a book
yeah.
every Canadian should read?
There's no way she really could have set in Canada, because she was on Broadway. It's not like she could have been
Yeah.
like, "I was at Neptune Theater." Like, no shade to Neptune Theater. That
We love
Broadway
Neptune, but, like,
you know,
you know,
Broadway is one
that
of the top 2, like, English-speaking performance spaces, so it just would not have been the same book if it was
no.
set in Canada. So and the author in that podcast I was listening to, she's a big, like, pop culture fan, loves, like, Nora Ephron and all of these, like, um, like, rom-com movies, and a lot of them are set in New York, so she had, like, nostalgia for that, even though she's never lived in New York. Yeah, so it wouldn't have been the same book if it was set in Canada.
Yeah.
So
I'm just
there was a
curious, like, what do you
constraint.
think Morgan's gonna say?
I think she'll just say, like, "That's not the point," I guess. Like,
Like, why
I
is this the book Canadian should read? Is she gonna be
it's
like,
not even
love
about Canada. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure she's thought of
it could be
something
the
to say.
levity of it, it could be the, like
It's like escapism. Like, you don't need to be thinking about anything that's going on in the world. You can just read this book
which
and,
is why a
like,
lot of people read.
yeah, just read in general.
Yeah.
There's different reasons people read, and one of them is to escape from
Yeah.
reality. So, yeah, I think she could say that. I'd say the setting isn't the point in this book. So, yeah, okay. So, is this book every Canadian should read? I mean, it's always a hard question to answer. Um,
I think it's
I'm not
trickier for this
sure.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would like to see more people read romance books.
Yeah,
So,
'cause
I
romance
I would like if more people
stereotypes
read this.
associated with it, which you've
Yeah,
talked about before.
yeah. And looking up some statistics, and you might have heard that the number 1 selling book genre is romance books. So I'm not
Mm.
sure if you're aware of that.
No, I don't think I know.
So that's the number 1, I think in the US, 21, of sales, it was $1.4 billion of sales. And then the next below that was crime and mystery, and it was 750 million. So it was like half, like the second place one
Yeah.
was half of romance. So romance books are super popular, and they're kind of like slept on by people who are not aware of them. I think they're looked
Or
down
have
upon.
preconceived notions about them.
They're looked down upon because women are the primary readers of romance.
Yeah.
So it's thought to be like not as good, not as intellectual, maybe not as worth reading. So I think is this a book every Canadian should read? I think romance girlies would enjoy it, and I think people who've never read a romance could definitely enjoy it as just something that's enjoyable book to read, and it doesn't have to be that deep.
Yeah, it did take me out of reality,
Yeah,
which was nice. It was an escape,
yeah.
and it was spicy.
It was spicy.
Spicy,
And yeah, I
spicy.
feel like a lot of the books you
18 plus.
read specifically, a lot can be, like, really heavy, and sometimes, like, you're winding down, getting ready to go to bed, and it's like you read this really heavy book, and it's just like, that's not gonna help my sleep. But if you read something like this, and it's just pleasant, maybe there's sometimes reading a really heavy book, I'm like, "Okay, here we go. I gotta read some more of this." Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, so this is like, so I could see it being a book that a lot of Canadians could benefit from reading in
Yeah.
that sense.
Yeah. I'd say if
But
you're
it's
wanting to
different.
get into romance or try a book, like, try it out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a lot different from we were saying maybe every Canadian should read A Cure for Drowning because they can learn something. It's more like, yes, it's an enjoyable book and there was learning to be done.
Mhm.
This one I think is mostly for the enjoyment of it.
Yeah, and that segues into the theme of this year's Canada Reads is A Book
Yeah.
to Build Bridges, and do you feel like this, this connects to that theme?
I think it does in the sense of building a bridge from people who don't read romance books and maybe potentially look down on them
Mhm.
to reading romance books.
Yeah.
I think just the fact that this is in the romance genre qualifies it for that, whether this book was good or bad.
It's on a stage, like, it's on a big stage.
Yeah, it's amongst that, and it's, like, part of it. So,
Yeah.
but I don't think we were socially learning much from this book necessarily in a like social justice kind of way. Um,
No, I don't think so, but that doesn't mean yeah, it doesn't matter really, I guess, and I had the same thought of, like, it kind of builds bridges between people and then certain genres, in this case, romance, so, for me, it built a bridge to a romance book that I never, ever would have picked up if it wasn't for Canada Reads,
yeah.
so,
So do you
yeah.
think that's enough of like enough to say yes, it builds bridges?
I think if you spun it the right way,
Okay.
then yes, but it's not gonna be as strong, I don't think, as other arguments that I see coming
Yeah.
forth from the books.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, like yeah, I would like to see the romance make it past the first round this time.
Definitely. I think it's a good chance because I think there's others that won't make it past the first
I really
round.
think we're in the minority in terms of whether we like about faux.
Why do you think that?
Is that what you were referring to? Like, you think others will go first?
I think like I want to be like well, unbiased, but I think Faux like go first
Yeah.
because
Well, we
but the
I
champion I
predicted
think
it
he's going to do
right
a really
last
good
year.
job. Hmm?
What?
I think the champion's going to do a really good job.
I think so, and I think the argument is stronger for that one just because of the setting and the themes. Like, the technology theme is so relevant right now,
The
like,
AI. Yeah.
AI and everything. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know,
hard
I
to
think
say.
it's got a tough road ahead, but I think Morgan is a good champion, and so I think
That's
she's
the
gonna
thing.
really
Mhm.
experienced romance reader, so she's
Yep.
gonna
Yep.
pull out all the stops.
Yeah, exactly. And she has her own podcast. She's used to talking on air, and that's the
Yeah,
other thing. If how she's able to speak. Does she get nervous? Like,
yeah.
that's all going to play part of it.
So I have hopes
But yeah, I
for
would
it.
love to see a romance book get past the first round.
Yeah, same.
That's all I ask.
Yes. I agree. I guess I should ask this earlier, but, regarding this book, if this book was part of a series, would you read the next book or not?
So yeah, I've never found a series that I've really got into or really loved. I always find the second book in a series is like never as good as the first.
Yeah.
I probably would read the second book. I would read the next book if this was in a series, because also just because we're doing it for Canada Reads, it's made me think more about the book.
Mm,
And also, I think a lot of the romance books I've read are a lot of American authors, so it is
mm.
nice to have a Canadian author. Um, so I'd say I would read the second one in the series, but I'd have pretty low expectations. I usually like haven't found many sequels that I've loved.
Like, in general or just in romance?
I think in general, yeah, I think in general. So in the podcast that I listened to with the author, she is releasing another book. She's written another book,
Like, just a different book?
a
Oh, yeah, it's
different
not the same yeah, I think I saw the title
different
of it.
romance book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. So I think I'll read that probably. And that kind of like segues into the idea of like a debut novel. I think I'm oftentimes drawn to debut novels because I think
Hmm.
the author has a little bit more freedom to write however they want to because they
Yeah.
don't have any expectations. Nobody has expectations for them, especially somebody like the author of this book who didn't even have a publisher. So she
Yeah.
wrote it and like I'm sure she made edits and stuff after she had a publisher, but she wrote it how she wanted to. So I like that and like I find there's been several times where there's been debut novels I've really liked and their sophomore novel or their second novel, it's been like I have not liked it at all.
Mhm.
So have you noticed that before?
Yeah,
Or
I
is
think
that
it
something
makes a
you're
lot of
getting into?
sense. I think there's pressure when you're on your second novel, right?
Yeah.
Like, to be, like, as successful, and so maybe you're overthinking it, or there's
Yeah.
pressure from other people, or your publisher, or your editor. So, yeah, sometimes I'm not even aware that it's someone's debut,
Oh,
but I think if I knew more of authors' debut novels, I'd probably gravitate towards them more. You think that they're not gonna be as good because it's a debut novel, but
yeah.
yeah, I would agree with you. I think that often I'm disappointed by the second novel, but also, like, there's the newness of the first in a series or the debut, it's, like, fresh,
Mhm.
it's new, it's
Fresh.
new author.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's interesting, it seems like the opposite with Ian Reid, at least for me, in terms of my reading. Like, We Spread is his most recent novel, and I think that
Mhm. I really
it's
like that.
your
So,
favorite.
yeah, it
Yeah.
depends. Mm.
Yeah, depends.
It depends. Here's the thing, they said the name of the book in the book
Multiple times.
multiple times. I love when it and the last line of the book was, "It's
Yeah.
different this time." So, anyways,
Which
I
I
just wrote
love.
that
I don't
down.
care what kind of book it is. I'm just like,
I love when they say the name of the book in the book.
this time.
I love it. Oh, another, like, fun fact is, the brownstones
Oh, yeah.
that this is set in. So, the author was kind of finding inspiration for this book, and she was in New York, so she went and walked around New York and was, like, in this street, and she was like, "This street is where I want my book to be set." And it's a real street, 70 there's a 74 Perry Street, and then she later found out that this book or this street contains the brownstone that Sarah Jessica Parker lived in Sex and the City. So for those Sex and the City fans out there,
I love Sex and the City.
that's kind of cool. That's just like a
That is
fun
cool. I
fact.
thought when you told me that before, I thought that she knew that first and then
No, she
chose, but
didn't.
that's funny how that worked out because it is a
Yeah,
nice street.
must be. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's really
Wow.
cool.
Have you watched Sex and the City?
No,
It's a good one.
I
Yeah.
know. I've
Yeah.
heard. I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
don't
anyways,
really have anything else, unless you had something that you wanted to say.
I think that oh, and one more thing I just want to throw in there for anybody who's, read Eddie Emily Henry's another romance author. This book that she has called People We Meet on Vacation. It reminded me of this. It's like Enemies to Lovers. It's also there's a movie on Netflix. So if anybody's an Enemies to Lovers fan, that there is a movie of that. I just wanted to throw that out there because it reminded me of it a bit. But yeah, I'm generally like excited that there's a romance book on Canada Reads. It's quite solid book. So I guess we'll see how the chips fall on the week of Canada Reads, whether how far this book makes it. Are we kind of like saying that in the sense of like I think I just want to keep my expectations low. I'm not necessarily expecting this book or any other book to win. I have no idea
The Cure for
because
Drowning's gonna win.
I mean that's definitely the strongest one as far as the arguments to be made for it for sure. I think it was probably so far the book we liked the most. For sure for you, probably for me too. And then this one would be the second most. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like it depends on how the champions convey their points, and it depends on the voting because the champions are the ones that do the voting. So,
Yeah.
you just don't know how it's gonna work.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting one, I think.
Yeah, very different books. And the last book that we're gonna read is Searching for Terry Punchout. That I think it's actually set in Nova Scotia.
Mm.
That's
Which
kind
is
of
where we're
cool.
from and where Paige currently lives.
Yeah. And I just noticed that the audiobook's coming out like mid-March. So yeah, we'll see what we want to talk about for that. And
We may have a special guest for that one, for that episode.
maybe we'll see. You
Stay
never
tuned.
know. You never know.
Mm.
Uh, so thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. And
Shout out to our mom who watches every single episode and supports us and is interested in investing in our audio equipment, which is better this year. So
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, shout out to our mom who gifted us the audio equipment.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We finally figured out how to use it. Took
Yeah.
a few episodes.
It's been like 4 episodes. Maybe in a couple of years we'll have it all figured out.
Yeah, we'll have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been enjoying doing these, and yeah, we have one more book left. We'll probably do like another episode after the last book as well as a summary, probably.
Yeah, after
We
it's
did last
maybe.
year. So you're not quite at the end yet, listeners and watchers.
Yeah.
There'll be more of us.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for
Well,
thanks for
thanks for
tuning in. And if you
listening.
read any of this book or other the Canada Reads shortlist, let us know. We'd love to hear about it.
Yay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.